Hello, and welcome back to Your Life Your Way. I am your host, Kathleen McDermott. And if you have been with us, you will recognize Deb. And if you're not seeing the video, you will recognize her voice. We have been talking about a very, very important topic that I have so wanted to bring out into the light so that we can begin to have deeper conversations about this. And Deb is an expert in this topic. We have been talking, we did a holiday episode and we did a part one and part two. So if you've missed those, please go back and check those out. We have been talking about the caregiver, you as a caregiver for a loved one. It is a time that is a completely different journey than we ever expected. It is a journey that, yes, it's difficult, it's emotional, there is guilt, there is fear, but there also is a lot of love, a lot of joy. And as Deb is going to share, how we can still continue to have that and also to laugh. Deb is the owner and founder of The Purple Vine. And The Purple Vine, I can't stress enough, go there and check it out. She also has resources there. And the whole concept of what she and her Purple Vine is all about is supporting you, the caregiver, when you're supporting a loved one who has dementia, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, or any other type of memory challenge. And as I said, is a difficult road. Deb is certainly no, what's the word I want to use? She's not new to this. She has her own history, which she's going to give us again an update on what your history has been. Debbie Compton, thank you so much for being with us again and continuing this series. And also, I'm going to have you make sure that you touch on a couple of your books that are so important that the listeners might want to reach out and get.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. These, as you said, these are very important topics. It's
Mm-hmm.
information that the majority of it I learned the hard way by making mistakes. And I did lots of research, like most of your caregivers, I'm sure, did, and learned the things that I could. And then I didn't have time to get my certifications until after two of my loved ones passed away. I'm I was a primary caregiver for dad with Parkinson's, my mother-in-law with Alzheimer's, and my mom with vascular dementia. So 21 years of caregiving experience, sometimes with two and three at a time, and then the founder, as you said, of the Purple Vine. So, and I appreciate the shout out on that because we do have a blog that goes out once a week in support of caregivers. And there's lots of information that you can find on the website as well as free resources. So thank you. And today we want to talk about the moments that matter, creating comfort in late stage dementia care, because there's a lot of negativity surrounding late stage. Of course, it's not fun. You know that your loved one is passing away. There's nothing you can do about it, and it's heartbreaking. It's
Mm-hmm.
very difficult. But what we want to focus on are the things that you can still do and the ways that you can still find joy in those last stages. So that's the main thing that I want to talk about today.
Beautiful, beautiful. I would like to ask, you and I have been talking, and I had thought about something that I would love to have had included in part two. But because I do feel it's so important, if we could start there with this
Sure,
question first, because
sure.
I, as my mother's caregiver, and I've been blessed, my mom is not diagnosed with actual dementia at this point. She has been diagnosed by her neurologist with memory challenges, cognition challenges
Mild
because of,
cognitive impairment.
yes, because, thank you, because of her hearing loss that she had for so long that went untreated. But still, the challenge that I find, and I'm sure this must come up for many others, are
Mhm.
the appointments, the calendar, scheduling, my things, her things, and you just get things down, and then suddenly there's something else that's needed to be put in the calendar. And it may sound trivial, it may sound, you just adjust, but it can be
It's a big
like putting a
thing.
puzzle together without all the pieces.
It can be. You're absolutely right. And I'll tell you, I started off with a paper calendar and writing things on there. It was difficult to keep up with. And so then what I progressed to is in my phone, I have a smartphone, which most people do, create a new contact for every doctor that you're going to be seeing, put their address in on the contact so that you don't have to look it up again. And then under the company, write what type of doctor they are. This is the hearing doctor, this is the neurologist, whatever they are, put that on the company so that you see it right away. And that way, also, when you're searching for it, you already have all their information, their phone numbers included, Then when you're driving to the doctor's appointment, but well, first off, schedule your doctor's appointment on your calendar in your smartphone. That way, when you say you have a meeting with the doctor at 10 a.m., you already have their address, or you can pull it across very quickly so that the address is there also in the GPS. Anything you can do to simplify for yourself will make life better because you've got enough craziness going on when you're trying to get them dressed, you're trying to get them around, you're stressed out, you're trying to hurry. So put them in as a contact, schedule the appointment on your smartphone, take some stress away. It works.
Good, good ideas. Yes, because I've
Mhm.
how many times I've left and I'm in the truck trying to set the GPS and I go, now what's the address again? So yes,
Yes. Where am I going? I don't know.
preparation.
Yes, exactly. So can I go ahead and start now on this part?
Absolutely. Thank you
Okay,
for touching on that a bit.
not a problem. Not a problem. I hope that helps because like I said, paper calendars do work for some people. It's very difficult to read from a paper calendar while you're driving down the road.
Yeah, they
Much
do go through a
safer to
lot of
put it in your
whiteout.
phone. Yes, much safer to put it in your phone. Okay, so first off, I want to tell you just a few. I'm just going to touch very briefly on the characteristics that you can expect in final stages of dementia. And I don't have time to go into all of these. I have lots of information on all of them. But if anyone needs more help on a specific one, they can reach out to me at deb@thepurplevine.com, or they can go to my website and schedule a consultation. I'd be more than happy to give them ideas, suggestions, strategies, and tools that they can use. So, but with a limited amount of time, I just had to pick out a couple. But during the late stages, these are some of the things that you can expect. You can expect severe memory loss, nonverbal communication because the verbal is going to go away. They're fully dependent on you for all their daily activities. Quite often they have very limited mobility. Most will wind up in a wheelchair also. They have eating and swallowing difficulties that you have to watch out for, sleep disturbances, emotional changes, and those can be caused by medication sometimes as well. Sometimes a disease, sometimes medication. Sensory changes, things that bother them all of a sudden, increased risk of infection. Their immune system is lower. Loss of bladder and bowel control, extremely common. Retention of the feelings because they can still retain the feelings, and they usually do. And then you can still have moments of connection. And so that's kind of what I want to talk to you about. I want to talk to you first about the moments of connection because, like I said, there's enough negativity. We don't need to dwell on the negativity. Let's talk about some positive stuff. When my mom was totally nonverbal, she could kinda utter some little words that didn't make any sense. So, but there's still ways to connect with her, and so what I would do is go over and get in front of her. You approach slowly, number 1, stand straight in front of her, not to the side because she can't see you. Peripheral vision is the first thing that goes with dementia.
Oh,
So you wanna be straight in front, and then lower yourself down until you're at eye level because it's very difficult for them to look up and to see up as well. So lower yourself down, get straight in front of her, and then I would just make a crazy face, puff out my cheeks, twist my head from the side, stick my tongue out, do all kinds of crazy things. I would just hold it and make a crazy face at her and look at her. And the shocking thing was she would mimic that crazy face and look back at me. And then we both just laugh and laugh. And it was wonderful. It was a great time of connection that we had without using any words. So look for those moments, look for those things because caregivers, you're doing an amazing job. It is such a difficult journey right now, particularly. The late stage is by far the hardest. And so cut yourself a little bit of slack, give yourself a little compassion there because it is a very difficult thing and you are not alone. If you think you're alone, I need you to schedule a consultation with me, and I will show you ways that you are not alone and that you can get support. So, to understand the late stages, I gave you that big, ugly list of things there, but I want us to change our perspective. I don't want us to focus on mom can no longer do this, that, and the other, and because that's so easy to do. And you're
it is.
grieving at the
Yes.
same time.
Mhm.
Yeah, you're grieving the loss of that loved one, the loss of your relationship, and it's hard. I am not minimizing that at all. It is very hard. But when you shift your perspective and look at the other part, thank heaven we still have mom. Thank heaven she's a happy little camper. Whatever it is, I'm thankful that she smiled at me today. She may not recognize you, may not know who you are, but she smiled at you. We learn to appreciate the very tiny things that we still have, and it will help you as a caregiver.
And do you
So,
find that in doing in having that gratitude, being saying and even saying these things out loud, sometimes you just need
mhm,
to hear yourself say it, but it's not going to wipe away the guilt that is still going to come out and the fear that's
mhm,
going to come out, but it can help
it
balance the brain to think a little bit differently, to create a little bit how do I want to say, a pathway that
creates a new
can
neural pathway.
exactly, but it can, and doing so can ease some of that a bit. I don't think the guilt is ever going to be 100% gone. It's just part of who we are as humans,
Mhm,
and it's not going to, in other words, it's not going to be fixed and wiped away
right,
in a
right.
short period of time. It's just something that's going to have to be processed over time. So I guess what I'm looking for is, what are your thoughts on that when someone is feeling this guilt, because they, let's face it, their life has changed and they're
Mhm.
having more and more. The further they go into the process, I would have to think that your life is getting smaller and smaller because your attention to your loved one has to be bigger and bigger. It has to be basically all
Yeah,
consuming.
that is true.
So how
That
do
is
you as
true.
a caregiver get through these emotions and
You
these and
It
be
is
positive?
hard.
Find the
It it
gratitude.
is it is hard. But you touched on the exact thing to do though, is to shift your perspective and train your brain to start thinking about what can I be thankful for? What can I be thankful for in this day? Because there's something every day. My little mother-in-law the same way. She had been completely nonverbal for about a week, and I was helping pull up her pants, and then she looked me straight in the eye and said, "Thank you."
Mm,
I mean, it was precious. It was
yeah.
wonderful because she hadn't even been able to speak. So I appreciate that. Dwell on that. Think about that. Think about those things that you have to be thankful for. Plus, we all need hugs. Everyone needs
We
hugs.
don't get enough
You
hugs.
We don't. And you have not lost that ability. So hug your loved one. If you can't think of the words to say, it doesn't matter. Hug them. They can feel, like I mentioned earlier, their emotions are still there. When you're frazzled and you're upset and you're feeling anxious or nervous or guilty, they feel that. And then how does that make them feel? They feel like they're being a burden. They need to, just go ahead and die so that you can have some peace. They didn't choose this. They didn't choose what's happening to them. And there's a lot going on in the brain, but it doesn't connect to the mouth anymore. So, this is the important phase where you have to really watch your loved one closely. Because I went to a seminar last week and some doctors were commenting on how people in late stage dementia are widely refuse or don't get the medication that people with the same diseases get. And it's because people with dementia can't verbalize their pain. So we as loved ones need to watch them more closely. They'll communicate with you, but sometimes we don't understand what they're trying to communicate. My dad would do this with his hands. He'd twist his hand one on top of the other. And I finally figured out that he was telling me it was like it was grinding, the bones were grinding, he was hurting. And you could see it on his face when I finally realized it and I said, "Dad, are you trying to tell me that you're hurting?" And you could see just the glimmer and the happiness in his face of, "Yes, she finally gets it," you know. And so then we started giving him stronger pain medicine. My mother-in-law would just hold her back and my mom would like rub her head, or hold her neck because they'll do things to give you cues, but if you're not paying attention, you'll miss them. And it just broke my heart when they said that they get almost 50% less medication than someone without dementia. That tells me that
Wow.
we're not paying close enough attention and we really need to. So,
And we're not, some might think, well, we're not doctors, we're not nurses. How do we know what to, but it's really in knowing, in knowing your loved one and knowing
yes.
yourself. And we all are intuitive, whether we're really in touch with it or not, but we really are all intuitive. And taking that time to take a step back and breathe and just watch. I mean, if it were an infant,
Mhm.
we would be watching and understanding and trying to figure out what that infant needed.
Yes.
So
Yes, and
it's very
sometimes
similar.
they act out and they may throw things and they're trying to get your attention. They're trying to tell you something's wrong. So we have to become a detective and figure out what is going on. What's wrong? Why is she angry? Why is she upset? Why is she throwing, these things? Because there's a reason. We just have to figure out what it is. And as I mentioned briefly too, sometimes just the tactile changes because some material may make them itchy or make them feel uncomfortable. And so they're pulling off their clothes all the time. Well, change the material. They're trying to tell you. So we just have to tune in and then really use those hugs, kisses, hold their hand, just showing them affection. Because when you lose the words or they can't understand the words, you still have all of the physical touch and the physical senses. So we need to use those. And then you watch your facial expressions because they're reading those and they're watching that. And if they can see that you're stressed and upset, again, they're going to feel it and they can hear the tone in your voice. They can hear when you're irritated. So pay attention to that. And then I want to briefly talk about too about music therapy. Oh my goodness, it is real, it works. Music therapy is fantastic. Play songs back in the day, songs that your loved one really enjoyed, and then pay close attention and watch. Because even when they can't walk, maybe they used to stand up and dance around to the
Mhm.
song like mom did, they'll still tap their hand or tap the foot or something that shows you that they are enjoying that music. And the thing that's been proven is that I'll give you an example before just telling you a statistic. Those are kind of boring. So I'll just tell you a story. Um, Mom didn't know who I was. And I was talking to her and I could tell she'd call me sweetie and stuff because she couldn't remember my name. And and so I played Ring of Fire, a song that she and I,
Wow,
Johnny
good song.
Cash.
Yes.
Yeah, she and I used to dance to it.
Yeah.
We'd dance around it, and I am not a dancer, but hey, mom got dementia, we became dancers. Um, and so I played that song, and she couldn't sing, but she'd get in there every now and then, Ring of Fire, or Fire or something like that. And at the end of the song, she said, "It's so good to see you, Debbie." I was just blown away. I started crying. She started crying. It doesn't last forever, but you get a short bump in their memory and bringing them back by playing music that they enjoy. So I encourage everyone to do that. I bought a little church house. Just it plays 1 hour of continuous gospel music, and it only has one knob on the front that you turn for on, off, and volume. So mom could control it for a long time. When she
That's a
couldn't,
good
I just put
idea.
it on. Yeah, when she couldn't, I just put it on a timer. Put a timer and
Mhm.
plugged it into the timer and set the timer when I wanted the music to come on and go off so that she would wake up to gospel music that she loved and she would go to sleep at night hearing gospel music, which helps calm her down, soothe the soul, soothe the spirit, and helped her to relax to be able to go ahead and go to sleep. So
Beautiful.
there's so much that you can do that I don't want people to get lost in all the negativity. Do the things that you can do.
Where do
And
you, where
go
do
ahead.
you know? Because I've also had a friend who had her father had
Hmm.
dementia, and
Hmm.
at one point he was out driving and
Hmm.
forgot and ended up being
Hmm.
3 hours away.
Mm.
Um,
My dad did that.
how do you talk to yourself, make yourself um, be open to what is the best for all of us? What is the best for my loved one, my parent, whatever, whoever it happens to be? Am I giving the best care? Do they need to be somewhere where they have more care, where they're safer? I mean, are there concerns that you need to be um, thinking about for, the stove or getting
Mhm.
lost? What are some
Absolutely.
things that you really need to watch for? And then also have that conversation with yourself, because it has to be with yourself first,
Oh, right.
to
Absolutely.
have yourself be willing to talk to professionals that can help advise you on what is the best.
It is
Um,
so difficult. It is so hard, and it varies with the individual. We kept dad in his home until he passed away because that's what he wanted, and we were able to do it in a safe manner because my brother and sister-in-law moved into their guest room. Um, Dad wouldn't move in with any of us. He was staying in his own house. He's very strong and stubborn. And so we managed to work it around. My brother was going to be building a new house. So he said, "Hey, while I'm building the house, can we stay with you?" Great. That's fine because that's dad helping him. And so my brother just did not start on building the new house. They lived there, to so that way they could take care of the evening shift and then with mom and dad, and then I took care of the daytime. It's very hard, but with dad with macular degeneration and Parkinson's, he did not need to be driving. And I knew that because he couldn't see well enough. And so what I talked with him and said, "How would you feel if you accidentally hit a child on the side of the road? Because there are children walking through your neighborhood. You could hit one and kill them. How's that going to make you feel? And how's that family gonna feel?" And that really got to him. Unfortunately, he forgot about it a little later and took off driving again. We took some things out of the car so that it wouldn't start, but he's a mechanic, so he fixed it.
Oh,
Um,
jeez.
and so it was a mess. What I finally wound up doing was in the garage, they have that thing that hangs down that you can disable the automatic
Yeah,
door opener.
yeah.
I climbed up and pulled that thing. That kept him in place for quite a while because the garage door wouldn't go up and
It
down.
wouldn't
And I'm like,
open, yeah.
well, it must be broken. I'll call somebody. Well, for now, just come go with me. I'll take you. And so I just never, of course, I didn't call anyone. I knew what was wrong with it. But anyway, we did that. And then he finally figured it out and fixed that too. So then I found,
Yeah, it
he,
was rough staying, you'd have to say 20 steps ahead of that man.
yes. Yes, he was a problem solver his whole life, and he
Ah,
it just
that's good.
continued. He's like, "We're going to fix this." So I found a family that needed a car, a single mother with children. And so I said, "Dad, this is a friend of mine and she's single. Her husband just passed away. She's got four little kids and she doesn't have a car. She sold her car to pay for his hospital bills."
Mm.
And I said, I'm wondering. And before I could even finish it, he said, "Give her my car. She
Oh,
can have my
sweet.
car." Yeah, and I knew he would because he has a heart for people. He wants to help people. He was a pastor, and so he loved people. So that's how we got him to give his car away. And then that way then I just drove him. And I'm like, "I can take you anywhere you want to go. Any place you want to go, it's not a problem. I will take you." And so we did. So, but there's a lot of difficult conversations that you have to have. We talk about that in the Caregiver's Advocate. There's a whole chapter on having difficult conversations and how to structure those, how to plan for them, because you need to plan ahead and think through what you're going to say and how you're going to respond. But even with that, you may be completely wrong. And then, as far as keeping the person, my mother in law, we kept her in my house until she passed away of Alzheimer's. I had my mom, but then she outweighed me by 30 pounds. And so she started passing out. And I would put her on my shoulder, and her and I would just both go to the floor. So the doctor told me, he pulled me aside and he said, "This is not sustainable. This is not smart. You're both going to be in the hospital. You need to put her in a facility where they can properly take care of her." So I cried my eyes out, felt like I let her down. I felt like the worst daughter in the world because I was having to put my mom in a memory care when I
Hence
took
all the
care of my
guilt.
mother in
Mhm.
law. I took care of my dad, and I can't take care of my sweet mom. What is wrong? But then it really hit home because she had forgotten how to use her legs and she was in the bathtub and I couldn't get her out of the bathtub. And that's when I realized, okay, he's right. This is not good. So I went and toured a bunch of facilities, a ton of them, and finally found one that I really liked. And the people were super friendly. But when I was making the decision to take her there, I sat in the parking lot and cried my eyes out
Mm.
again
Well,
because I felt like I was letting her down. and it was really tough. It was very difficult. But something happened that I never expected. When I took mom, I already had a room all set up. I went first and fixed her room, decorated it with all her things, which I highly recommend that you do if you're putting your loved one into a facility. Fix it first so that they're comfortable when they walk in.
They recognize things if
Yeah, they
that's yeah.
recognize it. So then it tells them this is their room. And I took mom, introduced her to people. She met tons of people as we're walking to the room. She just loved it. She had new friends. She had activities going on. She had all kinds of stuff. It was great. It was the best thing for her. And it was so wonderful because it let me be her daughter again. I
Oh,
didn't
well
have to
said.
be I didn't have to be the mean person that made her eat, that made her take a shower, that made her do this and that she didn't want to do, made her get up and get exercise. I didn't have to be any of that anymore. I could just have fun. I could just be the one who makes crazy faces and laughs and sings with you. It was great. And I did not see it coming.
I'm so glad
So,
you shared that. That's I think that's so important for a lot of people to hear,
mhm,
that it is different. You are different, and the roles change, and it doesn't even so
yes.
much change necessarily to what was your parent and you're the child, that now you're the parent or the child. It's even different from that. It's just like you
Mhm.
said, you can be their daughter again.
Yes. I didn't have to be the primary caregiver.
No,
I could
no,
be the daughter. And I still took care of her, of course, and I still did
of
things in her
course.
room all the time and checked the laundry, did all the stuff. But it took a heavy weight off me that I didn't even realize was there.
Well, you also knew she was safe.
Yes. Yes. Oh, I had
That's
cameras in her room, so I watched her all the time.
mm,
So and I would call if anybody was a little bit short with mom or something. I'd call and so you
oh,
can
thank you for
still
sharing that.
monitor. Yeah, you can still monitor and make sure they're okay without them being there in your home. So,
What
yeah,
other
it was
types
different.
of things? I know you have your list, and like you said, we don't have time to go through them all today. But I
Mhm.
did say if we need a fourth episode, we can do that. But what do you think are a couple of additional points that we really need to mention today to spark someone's thinking?
Well, I think don't underestimate just the power of presence. Just being with your loved one brings them comfort. Just knowing that you're there. You don't have to have the right words to say. You don't have to be busy with activities and things. You can just be present with them. And well, activities sparks something in my brain also because that's the reason I created these coloring books. Color Me Calm, Faith Lives Here, and then I've got two other new ones now with a cat and dog dressed up in little costumes and stuff.
Oh, my mother would love that.
But yeah, they're great. You should check them out. They're really cute. They're on Amazon, and I don't think they're on my website yet, but they're coming. I'm getting them there. But the reason I did that and the reason I was so into coloring books is because we could do it together. I colored with mom, I colored with my mother-in-law because that's an activity that we enjoyed and we could do together and be happy together. There's mandalas also that has no right or wrong. You can color it whatever color you want. It's fine. Nobody worries about it. So whatever suits your style, whatever you want to do. But it brought them joy. My mother-in-law liked using the crayons all the time, so that's fine. My mom likes the markers. Doesn't matter. You're still spending time with them, sharing an activity. Plus, the great thing about it, my grandkids could color with my mom.
Mhm.
So that bridged the generational gap and let them have happy memories of their nanny who was passing away, but they remember coloring with her. So
An extra bonus,
being yeah,
as the caregiver, coloring with your loved one, that's a calming factor for you.
yes.
So you're helping your own nervous system to relax.
Thank you for bringing that out. That is
Mhm.
absolutely true. And it helps your brain to
Same with the
calm, to
dancing or the
relax.
singing. Any of that is going
Yes,
to calm your nervous system.
and it applies creativity.
Hmm.
You're helping your brain, you're thinking, you're
Yeah,
exercising your brain, which we need.
definitely.
So, yeah, exactly. And when you're eating, this is a kind of a, I don't know if I can do, if they're listening, they're not going to get it. But if you're watching, you can tell. But when you're helping them eat to late stages, you often have to hold the spoon and stick it in their mouth. A better thing to do is hold their hand in your hand. You hold the spoon, but then you get their hand involved as well so that they are still going through the motions
Hmm.
of eating. So it's connecting, it's exercising their brain, and it's doing the hand eye coordination for them, which is great for them as well.
Hmm.
And you have the connectivity because you're holding their hand. So it can help calm down if you have an anxious eater. It can help calm things down. Another thing on that, when you're eating, turn off the TV, shut out the distractions. I also suggest turning off the music. It's hard for them to focus. So if it's a quiet environment, they can focus on eating and what they're supposed to do and how they're supposed to chew and how they're supposed to swallow. So get rid of all the distractions to have a happier eating time of eating, mealtime.
There are Dr. Bannock, my mother's neurologist, just discussed about because every once in a while, my mom has been in remission with myasthenia gravis, so he
Mhm,
always checks, how you're chewing, are you coughing a
mhm,
lot, but he was talking to her about that as far as having that focus and really slowing down and pay attention to your eating, which for me, I forget sometimes, but I don't try to converse with her a lot while she's eating so it
mhm.
doesn't distract her and cause the risk of choking. So it's
Right.
not that you're ignoring your loved one while they're eating, but it's just a way to make sure that they're safe and have that awareness of how that they're chewing. And I watch, and sometimes we're both fast eaters, so I try to remind her,
Mhm,
we're not in a rush. Let's slow down because it serves both
mhm.
of us to slow and to just
Right,
appreciate the food, the taste and the
right,
texture. Chewing, and it's
right.
important. Yeah.
The taste that they still have, because that's a very valid point as well. They lose the ability to taste, so foods that they love, they may not want anymore, and they may just want all sweets. That's because sweets are the last taste buds to survive on your
Well,
tongue.
isn't that interesting?
Yeah. So your my mom would eat dessert. Oh man. And dad same way, my mother-in-law same
Mm,
way. They would eat dessert, but they didn't care much for food, and food was a struggle.
mm,
So I came to the realization with my mom that healthy, great nutrition was not the most important thing. She loved pudding. She loved applesauce. Applesauce is pretty good for you, you know,
mhm,
but she loved ice cream. So that's what I would bring her. And that was another benefit when she was in, because she was in the home. So I could bring her an ice cream
ah,
shake or a sundae,
nice.
bring her a nice treat that she, or and other times I would put her in the car and we'd go through a drive-through, because that way she got out, she had a change of scenery, but we didn't have to worry about walking distances and things like that. She just sat in the car, we pulled up to a drive-through window, ordered what we wanted, sat in the car, ate it and enjoyed it. It was good. It was a very good thing. And I had one nurse once say, "Aren't you worried about diabetes?" And I said, "No, I'm really not.
No, no.
I don't care at this point."
Yeah. I don't want to end on a sad note, but we do need to talk about this. We are in we're talking about the final stages.
Mhm.
And there comes a point where your loved one is, I say, leaving. What do you do at that point? How do you handle at that point? I mean, hospice is, we all know hospice is wonderful. But
They
what,
are.
when you're at that stage where your loved one is getting ready to pass, do you have anything to share there to help a caregiver move through that?
That is the hardest part. There are a lot of things that you can do to make their transition easier, and including the foam that's on the stick, and you put it in water to get
We
them
did that
water
with
to
my
their
dad.
mouths. Yeah, that helps. Chapstick is wonderful. That's a necessity. Chapstick or Vaseline, but on their lips because their lips get so parched. So, and watching to see if they're wincing in pain or if they need more pain meds. Hospice is really good at monitoring all of that and taking care
Mhm.
of it. And I think from the caregiver standpoint, it's more about talking to yourself internally, about making yourself realize not focusing on I'm losing them, but focusing on they're transitioning. This is the best thing for them. Look at the stage of life that they're in. They have no quality of life at all. So I'm actually being selfish, wanting to keep them here and prolong it. So for myself, it was a lot of internal dialogue each time. I'd have to talk to myself and tell myself over and over that this is the best thing for them and it's time to let them go. And because I am a Christian and all three of them are Christians, I had the comfort of knowing I would see them again in heaven and that this is not our final goodbye. I'll see you again. And that is just such an incredible comfort. There's peace in that. So it is difficult. I certainly it's hard every time. And I think it's different depending on your relationship with that loved one,
Excuse me.
but it's something that we can get through, and I'd like to say to caregivers too, you will get through it. You will get through it, and it will get better. It takes time, so let's have some self-compassion, be a little gracious to ourselves, and give ourselves that time. But I'd like to go back, Kathleen, before they get to that point, and remind them when you're in the late stages of caregiving, you need to remember self-care.
Mm.
Self-care is
Throughout the whole
critically
process,
important.
yes.
Yes, it's so important because I found myself so wrapped up in everything that was going on with them that I let myself totally go. And that isn't good. That's how you wind up with high blood pressure.
Mm.
So so I learned to do a better job of it. You can take a little time for yourself. We've given tips through the other
Excuse me.
sessions where we spoke as well, giving you ideas of how to take care of yourself. Even if you're sitting at their bedside and you're holding their hand and you don't want to leave, that's fine. You can still start practicing some deep breathing
Mhm.
techniques to bring the calm in. You can do that regardless of where you are. You can tighten all your muscles just as tight as you can make them. Raise your shoulders up and scrunch them up against your earlobes as tight as you can and then let it relax. That will release tension throughout your shoulders and your neck area because I guarantee you, if you're a late stage caregiver, your shoulders are drawn up
Yeah.
because you are tense. You can't help it. That is where you live. So practice that, scrunching them up and loosening, tightening up and relaxing, deep breathing, bringing in that oxygen into your body. Your body needs that oxygen. And we
Definitely.
breathe
And your brain.
shallower. We breathe much more shallow when we're stressed. It just happens. It's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, we're chest breathers rather than belly
Yes.
breathers, and it's
Yes.
we need more oxygen. You're correct. Absolutely. Is
Mhm.
there, excuse me, the caregiver's advocate? I know you mentioned it, but there was also another one that you've mentioned in a past episode that would
Caregiving,
help.
how to hold on while letting go.
That's it.
That one.
That's the one.
Yes, that is one that I wrote that tells about my journey with my mother-in-law, my mom, and my dad. Doesn't My mother was still alive when I finished it. We lost her this past September, but it tells you if you're thinking of putting your loved one into assisted living or nursing home or whatever, gives you the questions that you need to ask, tells you the things that you need to be looking for when you tour facilities, because you need to look at certain things and you need to ask these questions. But the problem is that when you're just in the situation, you don't really know what to ask. You just kind of let them take care of the show, and that's not what needs to happen. So, yes, caregiving, how to hold on while letting go, shares a lot of tips and things that we used throughout our journey with the three of them, things that we created at home to make life safer and easier. And as you alluded to earlier, there's a lot of steps that you need to do to keep your loved ones safe at home. There's a
And yourself.
whole
And
gamut.
yourself. Yes.
Yes. Yes. Because they will do things that you never expected them to do because the brain's not functioning correctly. And they will turn on that gas stove and leave it on. So, but there are things you can do.
We've covered so much. You have shared so much in all of the four episodes. We've had a holiday episode. We had the First in this series, which was the
Diagnosis.
diagnosis, and we had
Mhm.
part two, which was when you're in the thick of it. And this
Mhm.
is moment by moment. There's
Mhm.
so much you've shared, and I know there's more that we just have not had the time to get into. So I would really, really please just beg you to take the time. I know it feels like, oh, we don't have time, we don't have time, but this is important. Reach
Mhm.
out to Debbie and do have a
Mhm.
conversation with her. Go to her website, look at it. It's a beautiful website. It's full of information,
Thank
but
you.
reach out to her and have a conversation. Sometimes having that one-on-one private conversation is you can, and I guarantee you'll walk away feeling a little bit lighter and feeling like, okay,
Yes.
you are not alone. You'll feel you're not alone.
Yes.
And that is so important because as we're women, and we feel we can do it all. And there is no
Mhm.
shame in saying, I can't do it all. I need some support. And for your own peace of mind, for your own soul,
Mhm.
heart and soul, have the conversation and find the answers and the solutions that will help you and your loved one.
I
Debbie,
appreciate that.
thank
It's
you.
so true
Please.
too, because we feel like we don't have time, but honestly, we don't have time not to,
That's right.
because
Good.
you
Exactly.
don't know all these little tips that would make your life easier.
Yeah.
And that was the hardest thing for me when I went through the training, and then I learned so many things that would have benefited me had I known sooner. That is why I do what I do. That's why I created the Purple Vine. You need the information.
Definitely. And repeat the information again as to how they can find you.
They can email me at deb@thepurplevine.com, or you can go to my website, which is thepurplevine.com, and you'll see on there are places to reach out to connect with me, but you can schedule a free consultation. First one's free, just so you can see what it's like, see if it's a good fit. I've never had anyone say that it wasn't helpful. You will walk away feeling lighter, more refreshed, and with information or tools that you can use.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for being here with us, my listeners. Thank you so much for listening. Please make sure you've caught all the previous episodes. And I cannot thank you enough for being part of the Your Life Your Way community. If you yourself are not a caregiver, but you see it in your future, or if you know someone else who is, please feel free to share these episodes with them. If we can just help, one or two or 10 or 100 of you to find some peace in this journey and some joy and some laughter in this journey, then we've done what we've been called to do.
Yes.
Reach out to Deb. I will have her information in the show notes. I will have my information in the show notes. And I want to wish you a whole lot of peace, a whole lot of blessings. Thank you for being with us. Deb, thank you again so much for being with us.
Thank you.
Have a marvelous day and namaste.